Hey, Milwaukee. It's Molly and Matt from On Milwaukee.
Uh,
Hi.
uh,
Well, we're here tonight to talk about the new Christmas flick on Hulu called Happiest Season. And there's really no way around what?
Very popular. I think Hulu said it was their most watched opening weekend for a movie, which they have no numbers, so who knows what that means? Like for all we knew, it was only us watching it, but
Well,
but it was a big deal.
it did premiere Thanksgiving weekend, which obviously is a huge movie watching time. So the timing couldn't have been more perfect for Hulu and Happiest Season. But one of the things people were really talking about, of course, is the fact that it's a holiday rom-com, which obviously there have been a gazillion made. Matt, you are the expert in this.
Unfortunately, against my own will, I am an expert on this. Yeah.
If you have not read or watched any of Matt's Holiday Hell segments or articles, they're awesome, and you definitely should.
And I think it's interesting. Oh, first of all, thank you. And I do think it's interesting that Hallmark movies kind of wiped movies like Happiest Season off the face of the earth, because we used to get a lot more of these kind of holiday rom-coms. And ever since Hallmark came out, people are like, well, why would I go to the theaters and see those? And even Happiest Season, this was supposed to be a theatrical release. This was going to come out in theaters, but obviously releasing stuff in theaters right now is a totally dubious idea. So it went to Hulu instead, and has caused a surprising amount of controversy, or at least a significant amount of discussion around it.
Well, and we can't get around the fact that one of the main interesting pieces about the film is that the couple that it is in the center of the film is a lesbian couple.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Hallmark has never done anything like that.
They're getting there. They're getting there. They've had their first. They've never. I don't think they've profiled a lead gay couple yet, but there is one in a movie. I believe it was like The Christmas House this past year that has a gay couple involved, and Hallmark is trying to diversify. It's
really not trying very hard.
It's been a slow process, to be polite about it, I guess. But they are attempting to diversify there. How well that's going? Question mark, to be discussed.
Well, Hulu, who's brought us gems like Shrill and Pen 15, they just jumped right in with it, and they're like, you know what? We're doing a Christmas movie, and it's going to be a lesbo Christmas movie. And that's that. Here we go. And they did it. And, you know, I say that in jest, of course, because on the one hand, it's 2020, blah, blah, blah. It's too bad that it has to even be a thing that it's a lesbian mainstream holiday movie. But because there really haven't been any others, even though I hear you, Matt, apparently Hallmark's on the brink of something huge.
They're still supporting characters, so we shouldn't give them too many flowers.
There we go. But it's, you know, the thing is that it still is the first time that we've seen something like this. So we have to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And so we have to talk about how they, you know, did it well and how they didn't do it well. And then also, you know, how it's in terms of a Christmas movie, it's two very separate conversations in terms of it being a Christmas movie and in terms of it being, you know, part of the LGBTQ cinematic genre, you know. Yeah. So it really are two different issues. But I kind of got a whiff of your thoughts on this earlier during our editorial meeting, and it seems like we have conflicting opinions on this. Why don't you give your overall?
Yeah, we land on opposite sides of this a little bit. For the first half hour of Happiest Season, I was having a good time. I love the cast. I think Mackenzie Davis is a super underrated actress. She was in *Halt and Catch Fire*, if you watch that. She was in the new Terminator movie last year as well. Kristen Stewart's a great actress, and anyone who doesn't think so needs to stop getting hung up on Twilight. Yeah, she was in Twilight. That was like 10 years ago now. She's making really, really good movies now. It's like people still thinking that Ben Affleck is bad at movies. Ben Affleck's really good. But so they've got this great cast, and for the first half hour, I'm charmed, I'm laughing, I'm really enjoying Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek. And then the plot kicks in. And It becomes a movie. It becomes the worst kind of romantic comedy, which is to say a romantic comedy in which I was not rooting for the lead couple to end up together by the end of the film.
Well, and wasn't that because your dislike for the Mackenzie Davis character of Harper being such a bitch and like luring Kristen Stewart to her parents' house and not telling her that her parents don't know that she's gay.
I wouldn't go so far.
In the basement. Come on. That's why you don't root for the couple, though. It's because of Harper, right?
Yeah, she's a bad character. Like you said, the kind of mental plot gymnastics that have to happen in order for people who don't know, basically the plot of the movie is that Harper and Kristen Stewart, Abby, are going home to Harper's family's house for Christmas. They've been in a relationship for like a year and a half, I believe, and
together they're going to get married.
They're possibly going to get married, and so Harper invites Abby to come home with her for the holidays. There's only one catch, which she only reveals when they're on the way to the house, that, oh, by the way, I haven't come out to my parents yet. So you're going to have to pretend.
Why did she invite her?
And why would you go, right, of all the times, to invite your gay girlfriend to your, colored as conservative household? Why would you do that in the middle of a political campaign in which you know that your dad and the whole entire family is under like extreme watchdog patrol of like, oh man, like we have to be on lockdown, like there was no one out of line, everything by the books. This is how we going to live. And you're like, you know what I got to do right now? I got to bring over my gay girlfriend, but we are not out yet. So we need to be awkward and pretending the entire time too. And oh, by the way, my parents have this habit of inviting my ex-boyfriend and also my best friend in grade school, who we were dating in high school, and I outed her in front of the entire school. They have a habit of inviting those people to my events. So this will be great. Kristen Stewart, you should definitely come over for the holidays.
Well, and the thing is, she had no intention of even, it wasn't like she was bringing her girlfriend home to her conservative parents and she was going to finally be herself, or she was going to finally make the statement. She had no plans to do that. And in fact, as soon as she walked in the door back into her parents' home, she fell right back into the lifestyle that she had as a pretend straight girl in high school with all of her popular friends and just being the girl that she thought her parents wanted her to be. So she had no intention of coming out, no intention of throwing Abby any sort of a raft, any sort of life-saving device. She let her rot in the basement.
It's so frustrating. And the family's a nightmare too. Like the family is, and you expect the family to be bad, but they're like borderline sociopathic. And she has this sister who commits some not unspeakable. We're going to do some spoilers here. So for those of you who haven't watched the movie, but like her sister at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, outs her in front of her entire family and friends at a gathering. And you're like, unacceptable. Like, why do I want Abby, who is who is a person who knows who she is, who owns who she is, who is totally confident in who she is? Why would she want to be around this family and this person who doesn't know who she is and also is a bad, like, putting aside the coming out of the closet part, she's a bad friend on this trip. She abandons Abby in her parents' basement so she can hang out with her ex-boyfriend and her bad friends. You're just like, why would anyone want her to be with Harper at the end of this movie?
But isn't that the gist of most holiday movies? As you have to suspend your disbelief, as we learn in film school. You have to just go with the flow, and you just have to kind of let go, though, of some of that in order to just let the plot kind of work itself out.
And I think a way to fix this would be give us a scene of Harper being fun, or us getting some side of Harper's personality. Because we never really get that in this movie. We get a brief interaction in the beginning of the film where they're like just sweetly flirty with each other, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then otherwise, she's entirely we don't get to see Harper as fun. We don't get to see Harper as someone that Abby would fall in love with. So as a result, she's just kind of a wet blanket who turns into a jerk when she's at home and doesn't really know or doesn't really own who she is yet. And who, at the end of the film, I would have really liked it if she does eventually come out to her parents. But I would have really liked it if she framed it as, listen, I'm gay. Abby is my girlfriend, and I don't care if that's what you want or if that's what you need. Like, I don't care about you accepting that. This is who I am, take it or leave it. Instead, the movie kind of shifts the big emotional crux of the movie onto the heterosexuals. And it kind of moves it onto, oh no, is the father going to accept them? I kind of want to be like, who cares if the father accepts them? This movie's not about them. It should be about her and this romance with Abby and her finally choosing to be herself. And you don't quite get that at the end of the movie. You don't get the happy ending you want there for anybody. So you're like, why is Abby, go be with Aubrey Plaza. She's got so much of her ish so much better together. And she's more fun. And she goes out not with her ex-boyfriend. Like, it's rom-coms. I have a hard time with the characters in this movie.
I found Aubrey Plaza kind of boring and bland in this movie, though. I was really disappointed, and like I'm usually just absolutely mesmerized by her in so many different ways, but this time I just was kind of like, yeah, kind of take her or leave her.
Yeah, but on the other side of that, I think that's one of the problems too is they set up Aubrey Plaza as this much more interesting. She has so much presence on screen, and you're like, I want to follow around that person. As compared to Harper, who's just this wet blanket, who's just getting walked over by everybody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I had a little bit of an issue with Dan Levy too, just because I adore Schitt's Creek, as we know. I named my dog Stevie after one of the characters. I mean, I love the show. I love the Levys. I love it. I was so happy to see him on screen again. He's, it feels warm, everything. But I just can't get over the fact that he seemed like David Rose to me, that was playing a part, this pretty much the same part that he does in Schitt's Creek in Happiest season. And I'm worried, like, are we ever going to get to see him play something that, a part that's not a funny, compassionate, snarky gay guy?
Yeah, he is playing. And this, I think sometimes we expect too much of movies for underserved audiences. Like, I think sometimes audiences are like, be everything to everybody all at once.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot to demand of, a movie like Happiest Season, which at its heart is just trying to be a holiday rom-com.
Well, and I want to get back to that. Exactly. So
and a lot of my issues with the movie are kind of based solely on that. I think as a holiday rom-com, it kind of trips up because you don't root for the couple. And I do think with the Dan Levy character, I think it's hard because he's such a cliche of the old classic rom-coms of like the sassy gay friend. And you're just like, it's weird that the lesbian kind of groundbreaking holiday rom-com is like, but we still have to have that kind of cliche there.
Yeah.
But I like him a lot in the movie. I think his performance is fun. My mom, I watched the movie with my mom, and her big takeaway from the movie was, I need to watch Schitt's Creek after this. So the movie's good advertising for Schitt's Creek.
It is doing its job right there, if nothing else, right? All right. Well, and, I think this movie had so much hype, which it did, and it was such a thing that it was sort of doomed from the start, in that what I talk about in my review, and I feel this really strongly, is that we all feel really intensely about our Christmas movies already. We all have our favorites.
Yeah.
We all, you can't not compare. So for something to come out that's, seems like a movie that might have been made 20 or 25 years ago, even, like it had that sort of cornball late 80s, 90s feel to it and humor to it. It's really hard to just the first time you watch it, feel anything strongly about it. Now, if we would have grown up watching it, or we would have been watching it for the last 10 or 15 years, I think there was writing in there. I think some of the jokes, some of the stuff is funny enough and strong enough that we could have more of a deeper feeling toward it. But at this point, I mean, we've all seen it once, so
yeah. And I
can't put it on our favorites list yet. We've seen it once.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, now that you're talking about holiday movies, it's weird when you watch Happiest Season, it doesn't feel that much like a Christmas movie.
Hmm.
You know, like it's so tied up in like political parties and stuff like that it should be Christmas parties. And I think it doesn't really deliver. Because honestly, when it comes to holiday movies, I feel like people are pretty lax on those. Like, I don't think anyone immediately watches one as like greatest movie of all time, but I think people are willing to give them some rope. I mean, that's all of Hallmark's. That's all of Hallmark's appeal. All of Hallmark's appeal is we don't make good movies. We make nice movies. And I think people, that's all just what they want from holiday.
There's two camps, though. I mean, there's, again, like, yes, the Hallmark people, but see, I don't identify with the Hallmark movie either. That's not me. So it's like, I'm more of the, Elf, Christmas Vacation, like more in that, Bad Santa, more in that genre, of bad Christmas movies. Because, than Hallmark. But I feel like there's some crossover here. Like I enjoyed Happiest Season way more than I would probably enjoy watching a Hallmark holiday movie.
Oh, and objectively speaking, Happiest Season is a better movie than all Hallmark movies. There's actual shots. There's actual performances. There's a script with real jokes. I was joking last night. I did a Facebook Live about Hallmark movies, and I joked that Hallmark movie jokes are like when you laugh at a joke that a preacher makes at like a homily or something like that, where it's like, it's not really funny, but you laugh politely because you're like, the effort is what counts. And that's what Hallmark does. It's like, oh, that resembles a joke. Good job. Whereas Happiest Season has actual jokes and actual nuanced characters. It has Jane. I love Jane in the movie. Jane is the only character I like in the movie. There should just be a movie with Jane, Abby, and Riley, and they go on a road trip together, and it's called A Nice Time. That's the movie I want to watch.
Did you think the messages were ever? I mean, of course, it was really good. The messages were really good about heterosexual people wanting, homosexual people to always fit into their thing, and that's just not. It wasn't going to be that way at the end of this movie, as it shouldn't be. And Dan Levy had a really nice monologue in there somewhere talking about stuff. And
that monologue almost saves the movie. That one moment almost makes you like forgive Harper for being like, listen, like maybe she's having a hard time because she's having such. Because not everyone's coming out story is great, and and everyone's coming out story is different. But then you're like thinking, but Harper still sucked as like a host, just as a person inviting a person over. Like she's not good across the board.
Right. And what I was getting at is that I think that I've read things saying that it was too heavy-handed at times of the message, and I did not feel that way. I felt the message was very succinct and direct and right on, and something that we can't say enough in mainstream cinema or TV shows right now. And it's great that it was there and it was done well.
Yeah,
if you agree with that, if you liked the Dan Levy monologue.
I do, and I think it's a holiday movie. You don't go to a holiday movie expecting a ton of nuance and a ton of this is a holiday rom-com. So you don't expect, these nuanced things like that. It's more nuanced than most in a lot of cases. I do think one point that I saw brought up in a bunch of places was that and this was a conversation people were bringing up over the summer with the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests, when people are like, these are important movies that you should watch about the Black experience in America. And many people, I think, it accurately chimed up about, why do all of the movies you watch about us have to be about us struggling and suffering? Why can't you watch movies about our life experience that are nice and are happy and are about us and are about joy? Why it's not just 12 Years a Slave? Like, don't watch our misery, watch our joy as well. Like, why can't we see ourselves reflected as happy and as blissful as everyone else? And I do think that some of them wanted more of that with Happiest Season, where it's just like, why does this need to be a movie about the struggle and hardship of coming out to a bad family? Why can't a gay rom-com just be a fun, lighthearted time about the holidays?
and that's coming, and that's where we're headed, hopefully, with movies like this. You know,
Mhm.
that's like I'm going to refer to Shrill again, one of my all-time favorite series on Hulu, and that's, you know, that's not a movie or that's not a show about a fat woman. It's about a character who happens to be overweight, who lives a life just like someone who isn't overweight, you know.
Mhm.
And it's very much a part of the show is that it's not a part of the show, and that's where we're going, I think. And that's why I think that it's important we get this out, and no pun intended, and you know, we let it out, and we have these moments where, you know, we do have part of the plot be about the LGBTQ coming out experience and all the other things that are really important. But down the road, can it just be a gay couple? Can it just be like, you know, kind of like where my kids are with it, you know, in the way that they were raised? It's just sort of, it's just not a thing, you know. It's just like some people are, some people aren't, you know. It's just where we need to be going, and I think it will catch up with itself, you know, even in mainstream Christmas movies someday. So,
Yeah, and I do think you're seeing a lot of movies with these undertones and themes to them. Oddly, one of the best ones that is out right now in theaters, and I think you can even watch it at home now, is the Vince Vaughn body swap horror movie Freaky, which
mm,
is an extremely violent movie. It is a old school violent slasher movie, but
okay.
it has this really interesting subtext about, you know, really people being inclusive and being accepting of other people's choices and being very positive with, you know, not swapping. Well, that's the premise of the movie, gender swapping, but kind of, you know, this very fluid and understanding and nonchalant way about it. And it was like, this is a very kind of, to use the overused phrase, this is an interestingly woke look at this premise. And
Mhm.
there's another one coming out on Netflix, I believe, next week. It's the big Ryan Johnson, not Ryan Johnson, that's someone completely different. Ryan Murphy musical with Meryl Streep, James Corden, called The Prom, which is all about a high school girl trying to go to prom in a small town that won't allow her to go with a girl
Hmm.
to prom. And that movie is kind of similar to Happiest Season in that, you know, it is trying to sell this fantasy. It's
Mhm.
trying to sell the movie version of, you know, the struggles of today
Mhm.
with equality. But I think that one sells the fantasy a little bit more, in which at the end of that movie, you're so happy for everyone. And you're like, they're good. Like, I like this couple. I'm happy they're together. I think that gets a benefit too, because that movie's about high schoolers. And
Mhm.
high schoolers live in they're not, you know, they're coping with these changing lives and changing worlds and all this stuff. And they're high schoolers where emotions are high and low. You know, they're so big and everything is the most dramatic thing that's ever happened to them. And it's so I think that movie earns a little bit more leeway, whereas Happiest Season, it's grown-ups who you
Mhm.
would like to see behaving better towards one another and also being more accepting of themselves and others.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I found it very warm, which I want to say a few things that I really liked about it, because I definitely had my
Yeah.
criticism of
We've
it.
been, we've been going hard on Happiest Season.
I
And
know. I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna bring this back around, because actually I liked the movie, and I want to make that clear. And that, you know, I found it warm. I found it funny. I found it well written. I found it sweet at times. I found, you know, even though you know, the Harper character is very unlikable. That's very much, there's always that character in like a John Hughes movie, or in a, you know, in a lighthearted movie that you've seen 100 times.
yeah.
And so there was something, maybe more than anything, there was something really comforting to me about Happiest Season, where again, I felt like it could have been a movie that was made 20 years ago, or maybe it should have been a movie that was made 20 years ago. And so there was something sort of familiar, but still fresh about it. And I will definitely, personally, I will watch it again, because some of the dialogue, particularly from the sister, I thought was very funny, and I would like to catch more of that. So
she's one of the co-writers in the movie, and it's always funny when a co-writer of the movie is also a star in the movie, and there's a part of me that's like, I wonder if she saved the best lines for her, because she gets like all the best like little weird one-liners, and you're just like, I like you. You're the best. I wish we had gotten more of that kind of humor with the Harper character, so that way we could. Because we just don't know her that much. She's just not an interesting character. Like, if she had a personality, I think we could forgive the dumb choices and the kind of getting lost at home and forgetting about the person you brought with. I think that could be forgiven if we just got to know her a little bit more and got to be like, oh, we like you and we like you with her. I think we just need a little bit more of that. Give her a little bit more of a character to play, because she, like I said, she just ends up not being interesting enough to root for. And then when things start going bad, when the family starts kind of essentially poisoning her emotionally, and like the hometown kind of poisons her emotionally, it's hard to have her back, because you're like, all I know of you is a cardboard cutout of a nice person in a rom-com.
Right. For me, it just made it impossible to buy the ending, altogether. And again, even I liked the movie, I did not like the ending at all. I did not feel that it fit with the movie. I did not feel like it led to that place.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that, okay, the happily ever after, we all kind of deep down in a Christmas movie want that, but it just, it wasn't ever heading in that direction, and I didn't feel that it warranted that or it earned that.
Did you see The Big Sick by any chance?
I did.
I think that's the ending that this movie should have had. And I don't like to be like one of those people. It's just like, well, here's how you should have wrote your screenplay. Okay. But I was just thinking about, because the end of Happiest Season is, everyone's accepting of one another. Everything's great. All is well. Decades of decades of prejudices have been wiped off.
Right. Gone. Yeah.
Immediately everyone's fine with one another in the past actions of the last 30 years of everyone's lives at the minimum. I think what The Big Sick does well is The Big Sick has this ending with Kumail Nanjiani's character and his family, where it's not all healed yet. That, by the end of the movie, his mom still can't even really talk to him. But there's a feeling that the ice is thawing. There's a feeling that, he is the person he wants to be. Oh, it's a pup. He's the person he wants to be. And his parents are learning to accept that. They're not there yet. They're on the path. And I think that's a much more honest ending to something like Happiest Season, which is just like this conservative politician man and his extreme and this family that has been at each other's throats at the Christmas season. They've all is forgiven. Nothing is they've never been happier. And you just
a wonderful life. Right.
And you just want to be like, wow, we cured homophobia real fast there.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
We just wanted something a little bit more there. Like, maybe you could have had a little bit more nuance with the conversation between the parents, which is like, I knew she was this way, but I couldn't own up to that. You just need something else there other than like, my daughter is a lesbian. I'm immediately fine. And also my entire political career is ruined, and like everything that I once thought, and my daughter's getting a divorce, and she outed my other daughter in front of all of my friends and family. Like, I need a lot more time for that stuff to sink in, as opposed to like the next day being like,
yeah,
the world is done.
Okay, well, we're coming to an end here. We gotta
we dissected
the dissection. So, okay, how many stars are you giving it, Matt?
I give it a higher end 2 out of 4 if I'm in a range. I think the cast is charming. I like Kristen Stewart. I like Aubrey Plaza in this. I know we disagree on that. I think the first third I'm all in for, and it's well intended. It's a good-natured movie, but as a romantic comedy, you want romance and you want comedy, and by midway through the movie, I was not charmed and I was not laughing, and that's a bad place to be. How about you? Where do you kind of land?
I land just over 3, I would say. I really enjoyed it. I found it comforting. I found it warm. I found it funny. I felt really good about the messaging, and I was really glad that this movie was being presented to the mainstream.
Mhm.
There's like a thing in the lesbian community that there's never been a good movie made about lesbians. And it's like it's kind of, it's a truth, but it's also an inside joke, but it's a truth. Now, this is not the movie either. And I had this conversation with friends already where it's like, this is not the movie that is finally going to show a fair portrayal of the lesbian experience. No.
This isn't like Moonlight or
Right.
like even like something like Love, Simon. I think did a really good job being a rom-com centered on gay people. I this isn't that quite yet,
No.
but like you said, it's a step forward. It is. It is, and I'd like to see more from Clea Duvall, the director. This is her first movie. I would really love to see her do more. I like seeing rom-coms. They're really, when done right, they're a really lovely genre. Even with the cliches, and sometimes the cliches are perfect. Sometimes the cliches are what you want.
Right.
But you want to fall in love at the end of the movie, and I didn't fall in love, unfortunately.
No, we did not. That we did not. So
my heart still breaks. Justice for Riley.
But between the two of us, like if we did an average, it gets a 3. So that is, we are recommending that people watch it.
It's a good watching.
Yes.
You go to holiday season stream.
And you watched it with your mom. There's not like it's not uncomfortable in any way to watch with a family. Yeah.
It's a straight down the line PG-13. I don't think it's particularly sexual. I don't think it's particularly it's romantic, and it's there's kissing.
You don't want to see ladies kissing, then this is not the movie for you. There's a lot of lady kissing. This is not the movie for you either, because
it's in the middle
in that way. Right. So
like if you can't handle ladies kissing at this point, like go back to 1996 where we've moved on as a culture.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Happiest season.
Well, thank you for that chat, Molly. We'll have to do more of these.
It was a blast as always, and I hope that people watch it. I hope people who did watch it thought about it. I'm sure you did, and be always curious to hear what you have to say, think about it out there. Mm-hmm. So even if you didn't chime in just now, you can always type away at me or Matt's review of what you thought of the movie yourself, because I'm really curious about this one, what others thought. So
yeah, it'll be a conversation piece, and I mean we've got so much to watch now. The rest of the month we've got Wonder Woman coming out in a few weeks. It's so many things. I dropped a beer bottle cap, so that's not good.
That's right. It was for the Wonder Woman, so it was totally worth it. And you didn't drop the beer, so that's
no. It's just the cap.
Okay. All right, Milwaukee. Thank you for joining us tonight.